when I started doing this work, there was a question that I asked myself over and over again. Am I really hearing that message? Am I really seeing that vision? Is this insight that I'm getting truly coming from guidance? Or is it just my imagination filling in the gaps? And even after years of experience, that question can still pop up for me from time to time. And I'm being honest, like it still creeps in. It's it's one of the most common concerns I hear from intuitive and spiritually gifted practitioners, like from medicine people, especially early on in their practice. The the thing is you can be so deeply connected and gifted and experienced and still have moments where you doubt the origin of what you're receiving. And this doesn't make you crap at what you do. It doesn't make you a crappy practitioner. It doesn't make you unqualified. It just makes you human, okay? Self-doubt is part of working in the unseen, where most of the work that we do is done in the unseen. We're translating impressions, sensations, subtle information into language and meaning, and that process is not as tangible as, reading from a page or, following a manual, things that you can touch and feel. It's not tangible at all. And early in practice, the doubt is loud. The doubt is very loud because you don't yet have a history of accurate, grounded experiences to lean on. Everything feels completely brand new and foreign, and you haven't built the same level of trust in your own channel as yet. Over time, as you work with more people and see patterns confirmed, the doubt becomes less frequent, but it doesn't always disappear completely. And in some ways, it's a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing because a healthy amount of self-questioning keeps us honest, keeps us checking in with ourselves, and keeps us humble, okay? And it keeps us from slipping into blind certainty where we're just like, oh, this is what I'm seeing, okay, and I'm just going to run with it. But there's a gigantic difference between healthy self-questioning and the kind of doubt that shuts you down. And that's where discernment comes in, knowing the difference between imagination and intuition, and learning to work confidently with your insights without having to prove them in a way that's not very possible in this kind of work that we do, because again, we work within the unseen. One of the first things I teach in mentoring is that imagination and intuition are not enemies. Okay, in fact, they use the same pathways in the brain. We use our imagination for our intuition. Your imagination is one of the ways your intuition communicates with you. It's the visual language that your mind uses to translate subtle energy into something that you can perceive. Dreams, visions, hearing things that aren't there. Just because something appears in the mind's eye or comes in as a story doesn't mean it's made up or your imagination. The question is not whether you're imagining. The question is whether the information carries certain qualities that mark it as intuitive. Okay, so how the heck do you tell the difference? Because I know that's the question you're asking me now. You're like, well, how do you tell the difference, Sam? Well, here are a few simple practices to help you develop that discernment. And I have patience with yourself in this process, okay? First, notice the speed and the texture of the information. Intuitive insights often arrive quickly before you have time to really consciously think them through. They can feel like they kind of drop in fully formed, an image, a sentence, a sensation, whereas imagination tends to be built piece by piece, shaped and refined as you think about it and you unpack it and, well, you imagine it. Second to this, check for emotional charge. True intuitive impressions are often neutral in tone. They may be powerful, moving, even unsettling, but they don't usually carry a heightened emotional like push of wishful thinking or fear-based imagining to it. If the information feels like it's trying to get you to a particular outcome, it's worth pausing and examining whether it's intuition or your own hopes and fears at play. Okay, so it's kind of like just checking in with yourself and like being honest with yourself. Third, let's look for consistency. If you get the same message, image, or theme repeatedly, again and again and again, and especially in different contexts, it's intuitive. Okay. All right, your imagination tends to wander and change direction pretty easily, but intuitive patterns they hold steady, man. They hold fast until they're acknowledged or acted upon. And finally, practice feedback loops. Work with trusted peers, work with mentors, work with certain clients, and ask for confirmation where possible. Not don't come from a place of like, oh, tell me if I'm doing this right. Just good validation. This doesn't mean you're fishing for the validation every time, but rather building a record of experiences where your impressions have been confirmed, because this is going to help you help your system learn the difference between a true hit and a mental construct. Okay, it's important to remember that discernment is a skill. It's something that you can develop with practice, and it's okay to make mistakes along the way. Like, we're not here for perfection. We're humans. We're imperfect beings. In fact, mistakes are part of how you learn. What's yours and what isn't, what's intuitive and what's imagination. The goal isn't to be right 100% of the time. It's to build enough trust in yourself that you can work fluidly without being paralyzed by the doubt. So healthy questioning, not like, oh my God, have I got this right? Am I seeing it? Because when you can stand in that space and be open to what's coming through, grounded enough to check it, and humble enough to acknowledge when you're wrong, your work becomes both more accurate and more impactful. You stop needing to improve every impression, and start focusing on the quality of the space you're holding and the integrity of how you use the information, and how you're passing the information on. So your focus shifts to the important things in the session, and not, oh my God, am I getting this right, and did I really see that, and is that real, and is it right for me to use this crystal and not that crystal? So stepping out of the fear-based paralysis of, oh my God, am I doing this right, to, yeah, this is absolutely intuitive, and I'm on point, and it's correct.